All right, guys, I have a true story. I gotta share this with you. So, you know how a lot of the things around the thinking leads to eating, it's all about how your lower brain steps in, it does all this stuff, but really it's trying to fix problems that don't exist, and it's trying to kind of make itself useful because it wasn't created for the current environment we live in, right? Remember we've talked about that, like you don't have much, general fear of walking outside and getting attacked by a saber-toothed tiger, that fight and flight response, that I'm going to die of a famine consideration, that those don't exist for us in this present environment. And so most of what your lower brain does is it looks for problems in the future. It looks for problems from the past to protect the future you. And it's constantly taking you out of the present moment, trying to fix things and help you, but ultimately causing anxiety and stress, which then it comes back in to relieve you of with your eating and or drinking behaviors. So it's kind of like in this zone of it's not necessary, but it's there, and it kind of wants to make itself known and useful, right? Well, there was a moment where it actually was extremely useful. For the last 10 plus years, we have taken our kids to this place where they have alligators, lots of alligators. And these are not behind protected walls. Like this is you're walking down a dirt path. There's a little bit of grass on one side, a little bit of grass on the other. We're in Florida, so I know that might sound terrifying to some people. But truly, like we've gone there a gajillion times. We've packed our lunches. We take kids on nature hikes there. All kinds of things. And yes, in theory, the gator, huge male gator, could cross your path and go to the other side. Nothing is stopping it. It is a nature preserve. So we've never had a problem. And usually they close the trails down during mating season, I should say that. So if they think you're going to be in danger, they just close the whole trail down. Well, I had gotten some images on Facebook showing several of these gators, showing up on trails and stuff like that. But I didn't think anything of it because, again, we've been there so many times. Feels safe, right? So we're walking, me and my kids and my hubby, and all of a sudden this huge male gator comes up, does this very deep guttural call. One of my kids is a huge science guy. He's like, hey mom, there's only two reasons they do that. One, it's because they're looking for a mate, and two, it's a territorial thing. So this one gator does it, and this sound just carries. It's a crazy loud sound. All of a sudden in the grass right next to me, you could hear other male gators doing the same thing. I have never in the 10 plus years I've been there heard anything so terrifying. Joel and I were having a conversation. We're talking about things in the future, in the past, right? And then all of a sudden we start hearing this, and I looked at my youngest son and I said, run, like book it, run. Every time we would run, another gator a few feet down, you couldn't see any of them. Literally, it would probably freak you out to see how close the water is to where you walk. It was like you could reach over the reeds, and you just kept hearing these huge male gators sounding off. And it freaked me out to no end. Truly terrible, like heart thumping, like you're in a horror movie, fear, okay? And we booked it. And what was interesting, I didn't think about it. It wasn't like my lower brain just run. Like that was the thought, run. And I didn't even have to should I run? If I run, what could happen? What if I trip on a limb? No, you know what? It was like Forrest Gump, and, I am running. Like, I am not a runner. You guys know this. Like, I love string training. My butt was running. Like, it was not something you hesitate. But the reason I want to have this conversation, Joel and I, when we got down, our adrenaline came back down. We looked at each other. We couldn't remember what we were talking about before, so obviously not super important. Two, we both felt that shift where it was more instinct than thought produced. That was an actual good use of my lower brain. It just said the word run. I went with it. I didn't question it. I didn't contemplate my future. I didn't contemplate, am I making the right decision? It wasn't, oh, you know, maybe I should or should. No, it was butt moving. That was what it was. And the reason this is super important is that was what my lower brain was designed to do. And it works very well in that situation. Like, I'm sure if I was dealing with lions, or if you live up somewhere where there's mountains and bears, you kind of get what I'm saying. Like, if you're faced with a bear, you're going to do what you need to do to survive. That is an actual good use of your lower brain. But here's the question. How often, like I said, I've walked that trail 10 plus years, no problem. How often do we actually find ourselves in those moments, right? And truly in threat. I knew that was not normal. There was something about that was not, we've never experienced anything like that. So immediately it felt different in my body and I just reacted to it, right? That is the good use of your lower brain. The overthinking the future, the worrying about it. See, this is why your lower brain is constantly seeking for a problem. It loved that in the situation. It was amazing too, because when it was over, my heart rate dropped, my adrenaline dropped. I felt almost kind of like more peaceful in a bizarre kind of way, because your life is threatened and you're feeling and you got your kids too, right? So, but what happened is, I felt fine after, but you know what I didn't do? Did I make the right decision? You don't do that either. You just go with it. You don't overthink it. You just take action. And the reason I wanted to share this is because it seems like I'm saying that there's absolutely 0 point for your lower brain to exist. No, that was a good one. And if there was a true famine that occurred and food was scarce, I'm sure it would kick in then as well. If I am in the mountains facing a grizzly bear or black bear or whatever bear, I'm sure it's going to kick in then too. It does serve a purpose, but because it's so limited, or for some people non-existent when it's ever going to show up, a real threat situation, it's trying to create that same situation on a daily basis by making stories in your head. Because if it's creating the alligator scenario a week from now based on a presentation you have to do at work and a paper you have to turn in, that's really just going to create anxiety and stress. It's not going to be that pure rush of adrenaline that you know to run and that your butt is wanting to get out of there. It's not that. It's like this low grade anxiety and stress that ultimately you just keep thinking to death in your head. And here's the other thing. I keep telling people this. 99.9% of the stories you tell yourself about the future will never play out the way you think. I keep getting clients on and they'll be like, one day they're having all these issues. 2 weeks later, all the issues have been resolved. I'll say, did it play out the way you thought? No. This is what I thought was going to happen. This was my plan. This is what happened. So we spend so much time in the future dealing with lower brain perceived problems, trying to fix them. And then once the time actually comes and it passes, 99.9% of the time, it didn't go any way the way that you kind of dreamed up it was going to go. So not only do we spend a lot of time in the future and the past with fake issues, but then we also have all of the stories about how it's going to go, and then those don't even happen. So it's kind of like just stay in the present moment, right? Because that's where all your power is. That's where all your action is. In that moment, I knew to run. I wasn't worried about really anything else in that moment, just running. So I just want to encourage you, 1, realize your lower brain does have a purpose. Hopefully 2, you'll never find yourself in a situation where you need it. But 3, the lower brain is trying to replicate that same extreme, scary situation to have a purpose to exist, to have a reason to be there. And that's what it's trying to create with all the stories it's constantly going to about your future self and the fear and the worry. It's trying to create that alligator scenario on a daily basis. I hope that helps. Our family was safe, by the way. Everybody's fine. We actually warned all the families coming up too, because again, we've never seen anything like that. And so we did our due diligence on that. I don't know what happened. It was so bizarre, but it was also really cool because it did give me the opportunity for my lower brain to have a purpose, to have a reason to exercise itself. All right, you guys have a great day. I'll talk to you soon.